Welcome back, one and all, to Podstance, the Punk Stance podcast. It is me, once again, doing a cheeky little intro before we dive into the proverbial pool of independent music, shall we say. A little tiny one for this. I actually filmed and recorded this one. I think this was the first one I ever did with another person. This is Charlie Smith, an individual from the sort of Hampshire region of the UK, where I went to university, who was initially one of my first posts as well. So he's been out and about, keeping himself busy ever since we did our first thing back in 2020 collectively. And it's it's sort of come around to us talking about the state of independent music, as it were. I mean, we go into great detail about how Spotify is sort of how it tracks people and how you can earn a living, quote unquote. I don't really know how it works. I just listen to it rather than implementing anything onto it. But yeah, it's a surprising insight because considering he started off, just doing stuff in his bedroom and is now attempting to tour around the most of the south of the UK. It's apparently quite a difficult industry to get into, funnily enough. Who knew that? But yeah, just call it the condiment in a suitcase because this episode is jam-packed full of stuff. You're going to love it. Thanks, Brian. It's a very interesting one. It gives you a very interesting insight into the world of independent music as well as the world of streaming, which I was not expecting, but it's funny how these things can divulge into the most interesting conversations when you didn't even realise. As much as this was my first ever recorded one for another person, I want to appreciate your patience, singular, for Charlie himself, and yours collectively for the audience that I have garnered. So, thank you all for being patient with me. And if you're looking forward to this one, then keep your ears peeled, because I'll see you on the other side. Wow, we actually did it.
Go. I'm surprised it works. My webcam is so low
Oh,
quality though.
mine's dog shit, mate. Mine's.
Actually, yeah, yours is probably worse, to be honest.
I was playing around with
Perfect.
my lighting settings to see if it would actually look any better, but unfortunately, I can only get it to go deep red
Wow.
or a nice bit of pink. So I'm going to keep it with the standard for now. Just 'cause
Wow.
it's probably the best I've got.
Mine's bad because look, my light's like above my head, so it looks like I'm an angel or something.
Well, this could go one of two ways, to be honest. I will say that out bluntly because you're the first person I've had on that I don't know. So
I,
we'll find out. I will say one thing, well,
yeah,
as we're actually getting started now, because I remember I was going through your discography literally just now. And I remember when I Hate It, I Own It came out and I
yeah,
got your first message that was like, oh, hello. And I was like, what, 3 weeks into doing this?
yeah.
And I had no idea what was going on. But and now
There
here
you
we
go.
are. How we've come
No.
full circle.
I mean,
Well,
that feels so long ago, doesn't it?
it
Like,
was it was
it
peak
was.
COVID. It was nobody knew what was going on, and now you have well two other records and a live session. So how things have changed, eh? How things have
Yeah, I
changed.
know.
Well, I mean, thank you for coming on. I mean, I don't know how much planning it actually took, but we got here in the end.
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, it's more, I'm going to just say this honestly. I have a bit of aversion. Aversion, is that the word?
Aversion,
Or
yeah.
to Zoom, to be honest with you. I always feel a bit awkward. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Is
I
it
don't
is
know
it
why.
is
It's
it
just
like a
the
PTSD
technology.
thing?
I don't know. I just feel, I think like, because I've done a few of them, like, and they were just always awkward, but I didn't do many, if you know what I mean. There was just, I
Yeah.
did a few. And I don't know. It's just something about the format. It just makes me very nervous, but I'll
Makes
try my best.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, it makes me feel like I'm back at university. Just
Yeah.
it's just one person and a lecturer. Thankfully, it's just two people who want to chat about music, which is much easier than trying to explain, I don't know, what your own writing or well, I guess it will be your own writing in this
Yeah, I
case.
know. I know. It's not gonna be that easy.
Well, yeah, obviously it's lovely to have you on. I mean, if you've done a few of these already, I'll try and not make it as bland or as awkward as the other ones. I will try my best. Normally, the people that I've had in, normally they'll literally sit right next to me and I'll just be able to look them dead in the eyes and figure out what I'm doing. But now, I mean, where are you based at the moment? Are you still sort of Southampton, Hampshire way?
Yeah, so I'm still living just outside Southampton,
Yeah,
in Romsey. I suppose people won't know that, but basically just outside Southampton.
nice. What's it like down there? Because I went to uni there, so I'm aware of what's going on.
I don't know. I thought it was quite good until I went up north a bit more, and I realized, yeah, maybe it's not quite so good here as I thought it was. You know, like when you kind of live somewhere, and you're kind of like, you think it's the best place in the world, and then I went up north and I thought, there is other things to see in the country, but it's not bad here. I mean, I prefer it to London,
Yeah.
but yeah, I do really have a soft spot for like anywhere sort of like north of like Midlands really. So like
Mm.
Sheffield and that. I like that a lot more. But I'm gonna just be honest. I don't want to say anything bad too much, but I really just don't like London. Or when I say London, it's a big place, but
Mm.
we are kind of the same a bit down here. We're a bit like London, these days. And I just
Mm.
think, ooh, but it's okay here. Like I don't hate it. It's all right.
I have a bit of an aversion to London as well. I mean, I think my brother
Mm,
currently lives there, and he's always had this dream of living in London. And then my parents went to me and went, "Do you want to do the same?" I went, "Oh God, no, no. It's just too big of a place to
yeah.
warrant. I'd much prefer to just visit and say, yeah, this is a tourist city for me, rather than saying it's my home." But I mean, I'm glad that at least you have Romsey to say it's your born and bred hometown.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I used to live in Chandler's Ford.
Yeah.
Um, it's basically the next town over, I suppose, like
Mm.
5, 10 minutes. So I've literally, yeah, lived around this whole area of Southampton my whole life, really, which is good. But yeah, I did enjoy going up north. I like it up there.
Mm.
I like it quite a lot.
Did you go up there for specifically music related things, or was it
Yeah,
just to visit?
so I went up there on like a little bit of a tour. I mean, we're going to use that word tour quite loosely because it was about a few gigs, you know what I mean? But yeah, I did really like it up there, and that's when I start. But I went up there before as well, like one or not last year, the year before that as well, just for like one gig or two gigs or so. But yeah, I met some cool people up there. It's definitely cool, like Manchester as well. That is a good place for music, I think.
Mm.
And you just kind of know because you kind of get used to it and got to look at the live venues and some of the people there, and you kind of know that's going on. But it's not just about music as well. I think they're a little bit chilled as well up
Mm.
there. Whereas here it's a bit, a bit London like. Like the thing I dislike about it is just like to put it in the music terms because it's just like what people are like there. But you like ask a venue to play a gig or something, they'll be like, I don't know, this is what London venues say. They're like, okay, it's free, but what you have to do is have a minimum like £800 bar spend, and if you don't do it, then you have to pay the rest. And I'm thinking that's such a London thing. Do you know what I mean? Where the drinks are probably
Yeah.
like £8, but I just can't imagine that sort of thing like up north or here. But it's just so driven and it's just so like money. Do you know what I mean? It's just
Yeah. I didn't
money.
realize that was something you had to think about because surely the actual alcohol consumption and what people buy is not under your control. You're just there to play
Well,
some songs and get involved.
Well, that's what the thing is, but these days I'm doing more event management thing, if you know what I mean. I'm trying to do my own things to sort of, really to just, I don't know, just do it. I quite like doing it. It's quite fun, but yeah, there's some weird venues in London that are quite weird, and there's also like some weird promoters there. I couldn't really name them because they're all like the same one, but they'll do these deals with you, and they'll be like, "Do you want to play a gig?" And you're like, "Yeah, that's cool. Thanks for messaging me." And then they'll be like, "But by the way, you've got to sell 20 tickets, and you'll get £1 a ticket or something." You know what I mean? If you sell
Yeah.
20, but if you sell 19, you get no money
You get
or you get
nothing.
kicked off the show. And it's crazy because these people message me and I'm like, I don't even live in London. Do you know what I mean? I thought it was like a nice thing. Like people would say, yeah, come play London, get, a bit of train money. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
all
That's
fun, but it's like,
such a strict threshold for you
yeah,
to
it
hit.
is. And it's so driven. Like the shows we're doing down here, it's like when I do my own stuff, I try to like just basically split the money. So if it's like you make £100, then all the acts just get whatever. If
Mm.
it's 40, 25 quid or whatever that is, that's the way I run. But these London people are like, you've got to bring 20 people. You can't play a gig within 1 month of before it or 1 month after. And it's just like, this is just madness. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, you've got to do this. You've got to sell 20 tickets. It's just really driven. And I don't know.
It's not
I think I'm
maybe that's
older.
what's given you that aversion, just the weird nature of how to even get a gig up there.
Yeah, because that happened quite a few times, but I have played a few gigs in London. And I always thought they'd be busy, but honestly, my worst gigs were in London as well. Everything I seem to do is just like problematic. Like, yeah, it's not good. It's just not good for me, I suppose. But I go there, everyone's walking around. It's like a million people. They're walking into you. You got my guitar on my back. I'm just walking around like a bit of a tourist, like, oh, I'm going to a gig. How fun! And they're just like, no, what stocks do you have? Do you know what I mean? I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. And then I get there, and then I think, oh, London, at least the gig will be packed. And then I go there, and there's like two people, and I'm like, oh, no people here. And I'm like, oh, that
Well, I
one.
mean, I guess that's part of the journey, though, isn't it? Getting to even that point, let alone starting up. And I mean, I guess because well, I say I've known you. Like we first made contact back in 2020 with your first release. So for the wider world, shall we say, describe your artistic journeys from going to your beginning of your first record to now playing in London and Manchester and all these places.
Yeah, so I think it's more like, like when you make a mistake and then you're too proud to admit you've made a mistake. And I know that sounds confusing to say, but
Where is this going?
I think I pretended to be a musician because I enjoyed doing it, but I wasn't really good at anything else. Because there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just doing stuff. And I just thought, oh, I'll pretend to do it because if I say I'm that, then I'll become that. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's all just been a bit of a mistake, like sort of an accident where I was like, I like music. I've got nothing to do with my life. It's quite sad. So I just say I'm a musician. And then actually you go there and you're like, oh, a couple years in, oh no, I'm actually doing that now. And a bit of a mistake, actually.
Does it feel
In a
like it
weird
now?
sort of way. Yeah, you sort of just say, like, what do you want to do? Then you kind of, it's not like I don't like it. Like, I would love to be it and I like doing it, but it's more like one of those things where I started off just saying it just because you can. If you make music, anyone could do it. You could just strum a guitar and say you're a musician, couldn't you? And if you love it, then why shouldn't you? But I think myself is I just accidentally kind of kidded myself into thinking I could do anything that makes sense, and then just kind of just went with it like, oh well, I might as well keep going. And then I want to write another song, I'll write another song, and I'll do another thing. Oh, I'm in London. I don't like it here. That's how it kind of went. Nothing was that planned, to be honest. I'm more planned now. Don't get me wrong. I'm a lot more planned. Like, oh, I thought I had good plans. Like maybe going a bit wrong lately, but I have better plans now. But I think most of like the last 2 years, really, after that point, was just me going along with it. Did a lot of cool things and I did a lot of stupid things as well.
But that's part of the learning journey, isn't it? I
Yeah, I
think,
mean you got to do that. You got to try, haven't you?
yeah, rather, I don't know how unique of an experience it is to accidentally become a musician when you've said that you just by saying that you are. But I mean, now look at you. You've got what is it? You had Munched in 2019. I Hate It, I Own It, 2020. I Just Want to Sleep in 2021, and then Not a Demo Anymore, which was your full release in 2022. It seems to me you've been very, very busy for a fake musician.
Yeah, I have been busy. I mean, I think yeah, it's just weird because I didn't really even want to do acoustic stuff. Like that's my sort of style now, you know. Obviously I wanted to do it just to do it, just because I was fed up of like being in a band situation because I played in bands a bit before then and stuff, but I would never really get anywhere. Like I never really recorded anything. We do like make like a gig and then it's sort of fall apart, if that makes sense. Like we'd never really stick to anything. So I just kind of stuck with it, you know,
Hmm.
um, and sort of just tried to sort of get better and improve, but just not give up because I think that's a key thing because all the band stuff I've done before, I get in a band, I find cool people, and we do like a cool jam session, and we'd be like, yeah, this is cool, like we can do these songs, and it would just never happen. Do you know what I mean? Like it would never get recorded, would never do anything. I just got kind of to the point like, well, I just wanted to either do it or not do it, if that makes sense. But the weird thing is like when I was doing all that stuff at the start from like 2020 to like 2022, really, so I wasn't really doing my own stuff at all. I was trying to make a band the whole time and I was just doing it just because, really.
Yeah.
So I only really started focus on it maybe like 1 or 2 years ago. Well, actually, probably two and a half, probably properly, if that makes sense.
And what is it? The what happened with those Soton? I call it Soton, like I've been there. the Southampton Sessions. So that was something that came out, I believe, back in in fact December of last year.
Mm.
So very, very recently. Is
Yeah,
that sort
so
of the culmination of all your work so far?
yeah, so I will just be honest about that. If I'm really honest, it was just me having to, not having to, but I didn't put anything out music-wise that whole year because I was so busy like playing, so I didn't really write much. I wrote like a few little songs, but basically because I was gigging like literally all the time, and just really, really, really busy. I didn't really get a chance to record anything. So I luckily got some at the start of last year. I got some of them recordings, and they were sort of just my live songs from different releases because you got different songs on there from the other stuff. So I kind of just was just really lucky that I got these recordings really, and I managed to sort of edit it together to kind of be like a short. It's not very long. I think it's like 11 minutes.
Yeah,
Um,
just over,
Ding
yeah.
dong song. So it's not very long. But it's quite like a little bit of an insight to sort of like my live sound because that's sort of what I did last year was literally just play live. I didn't really do anything recording wise, so which was also a bit of a mistake on my part. But I kind of yeah, I've learned from that, in a way. And then it kind of got to like the end of the year, and I was like, I'm not gonna finish anything new, even though I've got some ideas. So I was like, I felt like I needed to do something, if that makes
Or
sense.
get out
And
there and or just
yeah,
put something out for
put
people to
something
see that
out.
you were still here.
Yeah, basically, because there's a lot of pressure. Because I think one of these days, just to be honest about like Spotify and stuff, like I don't know really what you think about, but for me, it seems like as a new artist, really, established artists doesn't really matter, but for new artists, it feels like there's just the pressure to put stuff out because so many people give up or kind of like sort of struggle, if you know what I mean. It's like sort of a struggle, so it feels like you have to put something out.
No, I know exactly what you mean because I mean, I remember doing old YouTube things for a channel and then this channel and then the channel before that. And there was this constant pressure or the stigma of having to make constant content is where this content
Mm.
mill idea has now come from. You just churn out stuff whether you're proud of it or not. Whether the Spotify and general music scene are the same, I'm not sure. But from what I can tell from your experience, you're feeling this like this stress to almost put something out without really considering what it is you're putting out.
Yeah, that's exactly how it was. It's not like the release is bad. I mean, it is really short. So that's kind of the thing. It was short, but that's what I wanted to do rather than anything. So it's not like I hate doing that. It was a thing I wanted to do anyway, but it was more like there is that pressure there and it just builds up and you just feel like and I think for me as well, a lot of people do singles nowadays. I don't know if you notice that a lot, but you see a lot of people just do singles because that is really, in my view, that's what the like algorithm wants. They want singles. They don't want a long sort of thing. They just want even like I'm not even kidding, like a minute and a half song would probably be ideal, 2 minute song, and they just want that. And they want that every like 2 months. That's
Yeah.
like and that will, generally speaking, make you the most money, make you, will be the best for you because it's just how it is nowadays, which is really a weird thing to come to terms with as well because a lot of my ideas are kind of a bit old fashioned.
Mm.
If you know what I mean, like my music's not really that modern. I don't use that much modern equipment. Like it's not that polished. It's not like very modern. Like it's more like olden days. Is that not, you know what I mean? It's
I
not
know what you mean.
know what I mean? It's vintage, it's retro, say what you want. But yeah, like more like, sit down, write a proper EP that actually kind of has a theme. It has like like a start, a beginning song. It kind of works together, if that makes sense. Like, in the middle you have some instrumental bit, you do something. That's kind of how I like doing it, but that's not how you should do it.
Yeah.
If
Do you think that's become a much more modern challenge for not just yourself, but other independent artists?
Yeah, definitely from the people I know. I don't really know that many acts. Not that I know everyone or everything, but the people that I do know do not put EPs, albums. Only the people that really just want to do that is more of a thing of like, it's actually quite a negative to do that in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. You know what I mean? Because I don't know if you know about the new Spotify rules that are coming into effect, but I'm not sure when they are coming. But basically, to get money from a song, you need at least 1,000 streams.
I think I read somewhere about this because
It might,
I've recently been putting my podcasts. Well, I've been putting my podcasts on there for a while. I don't know if the rules are the same between podcasters and musicians, but I was reading that you have to have a certain amount of people listen to you in order to get anything, to be honest.
yeah. So that's what it has. You have to have 1,000 streams to on a track for it to be monetized. So basically, if you got 999 streams on a song in a year, you would get nothing.
Mm.
You get zero royalties. If you got 1,000, it's the same. But if you get 1,001, then you get one stream. You get paid. So I'm doing a bad job of explaining this, but effectively, it's really challenging because you only get paid after 1,000 streams in a year. So it basically means that all my old work, in a lot of ways, is not that it's like making loads of money. But it will be making no money now. Only
Yeah,
my songs will be making money, basically. So if you were to write an album, let's just say you write a 20-track album and they all get 999 streams a year, you'd get nothing.
wow.
That is crazy though, isn't it? That
That's
is
that's such a weird system of doing it.
it's yeah, I mean obviously it benefits the people who do well because basically all the money is like gonna so once you get over 1,000 streams, the money you get will be more. But for everyone under, you won't get paid. So once again, the sort of like Robbie Williams. Why did I say Robbie Williams? I mean, not to pick on him, but people like that, they're gonna get they're gonna get more money basically. But
Yeah,
all the people that, like some of the people you listen to, all the indie artists who don't get 1,000 streams on their tracks in a year is gonna be nothing basically.
yeah. That's so weird. And that's a strict rule that's coming in soon.
Yeah, it's coming in. I don't know when, but it's this year, they said. So they have like you can read up. I think Spotify put something out themselves. I remember reading it on something, a musician thing, but Spotify have come out and said that. Yeah, and there's some other changes as well. I can't really remember all of them, but that's the biggest one. Obviously, it won't affect the customers, people who listen to stuff. Just affects the artist really.
Yeah. Is there like a major financial incentive to all this? Because that seems like the number of streams you get and the number of the amount you make based on the songs. Like, is that a major part of it for you, or do you feel like the music you're putting out does genuinely like affect people and does something for yourself?
It's really hard because yeah, because at one point, I said this to people like when I was talking to people like, well, would you still do this if there was no money? What would you do? And I suppose the key thing that people probably don't want to mix, there'll be loads of people who say, yeah, I just do it for the passion and all that. And that's cool. But I think there is like a balance to it. If you have to weigh it up in your mind, like it's not, you never, I mean, you would need an insane amount of streams to live off. There's no way that anyone apart from the top acts get enough to really impact their lives. But I think if you're not making money, you're probably losing money
Mm,
if you think about it like that. So I think the Spotify thing is just making sure you have enough to just actually record stuff. Maybe buy a new microphone, buy leads to record, maybe buy a new guitar. So it's not like it's going to actually change your life. But if you think about it, and even if it takes a few £100 away from like musicians, I mean that is literally a guitar, isn't it?
yeah.
If you think about it like that, or a new pair of mixing headphones, a microphone. So it's just one of those things that it just makes things harder because you will have that desire from people to make stuff, but when they sort of, it's just another thing that just makes it harder to
Mm,
to your goals. It makes another thing. Oh, I've got to find an extra few £100 a year now, or whatever it is. I don't actually know what the impact's going to be on myself, but I've got quite a lot of songs now, like 30 songs, I think, maybe more than that. And I know some of them are still going to make money because they're going to get more than 1,000, but I'm not sure what will and what won't, if that makes sense.
mm,
So I don't really know, but it's gonna definitely affect some artists more than others, and especially those who make albums. If there's an artist out and they've only got like two songs, then it's not gonna really affect them because they'll probably get more than 2,000, on their songs. But it's just more of it. Just again, it's like changes the way artists maybe create because they might not go. They might change from EPs now to just singles, no albums, just singles. And that was always going that way. But I think now people are just going to go singles, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it seems I've definitely noticed that in, well, my scene, the vast majority of groups and solo artists will have. I think there was even one I saw, I can't remember who it was now, that was is releasing like one single a week
Yeah.
rather than creating this whole compilation album of how many. And I think they're up to like 11 or 12 now. So they have enough for a full album, but they're not choosing to call it that. And I thought I did see that and I thought that's quite weird. Is there a reason why that's happening? And that makes a lot of sense now that you've said that.
Yeah. So that is the way it's going to go. And it's probably quite confusing for people who kind of don't know the full thing. Like, like you heard it. You're like, why are they doing that? Like, it makes no sense to people who like buy CDs or don't know about changes. But if people just don't really buy music that much, I mean,
Hmm.
some people still do, but so it is just basically all streaming, unfortunately. It is like literally 80% or whatever is streaming now. So they just really want the single. That's what it is. And it's weird how much that has changed even from like 10 years ago. Would people just do singles? I don't know. But yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it, in a way?
Yeah. Well, with all these singles and the discussion about it, with a show like Release Radar, which this is, have you got any singles coming up that you're thinking of putting out to catch on to this new sort of fad, as it were, of just singles galore?
Yeah, well, that's the thing is because what I don't really want to do is that, if that makes sense. But because I've already kind of got like an EP that I'm working on, and it's very close to getting finished now. Um, like really close. Although I'm struggling a bit with the final songs, but that's a whole different story, and that's my fault. But the EP, it's going to be released as an EP because I want it to be, and I don't care about that. It is what it is. The money side on that. But I think in the future, I will definitely after this EP release. So I've done that. It's definitely going to be singles, and yeah, it is going to be that way. But something creative I have thought about that's probably a bit different is like the double single.
Oh yeah, like a split.
Yeah, because that was quite like obviously an old-fashioned thing, but that is okay, I think, now because you're putting out effectively your single, but you can still have, two songs won't really affect it. When you're trying to promote 12 songs, that's tough, but promoting two songs is probably all right. So I'm probably gonna have to try like the double single thing, just because that feels to me like more creative. I don't know why. It's not like singles are evil or wrong or I don't hate them, but my songs are quite short. Do you know what I mean? I just feel
Yeah.
like just a single, just a 1 minute 50 song. I don't know. It doesn't inspire me that much to write that way, if that makes sense. The only other thing I can think of is doing more like, say you have an album of 12 songs and doing singles from that album before you release the album. And I think that might be the way to go more so.
Well, what else does inspire you? Like, what's the main thing that's inspiring you at the moment, single wise?
It's really tough because I have just I've been a bit like, if I'm honest, a bit sort of like tired of music a little bit myself. I've been a bit kind of jaded with just not actually like music, but just the whole everything that goes with it, like sort of the scene, having to book gigs, all this sort of thing. And I've been getting a bit tired, but I think kind of what's inspiring me at the moment is just it sounds really weird to say this, but kind of like pushing everything out and just literally just playing and having no real goal or no real thing and literally just making stuff and not even doing anything to a plan and just sort of just saying, I don't know what I'm going to do after this. I know it's probably going to be singles or whatever because that's what it's going to be, but more just literally just playing. If that makes sense
Well, it's
with
that's
what I'm
such a
saying.
that's such a just a simplistic way of putting it. It's much easier. It's just that I enjoy playing music. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, because the thing is, I might not even release some of the songs I do now because I know that it might not even be good to do so, but I can still put them together and actually like record them in a way that doesn't take up too much time, but it's not rubbish. and then just have it done, if that makes sense, and maybe not even get carried away with all this what is an album stuff or what is this, and just say, look, these are 10 songs I recorded. These three might be good. I'll just release them, and the rest is just, I've enjoyed writing them and I haven't
Yeah.
wasted too much time, if that makes sense.
I'm surprised there's so much politics to it. Like the more you talk to me, the more I realize how much you have to think about just by
Mm,
writing music.
yeah, because I think most people think you just do it, and I think you can just do it, but I think there's just things that you just think about and you just notice. I hate to say this, but everyone's also is always going to look at what they do and like how many streams it gets. Do you know what I mean? And going to think, oh, what could I do better? What could I do? How could I get more streams? How could I get more gigs? How could I do better? So everyone wants to improve, and when there's like an effective method that comes along, you kind of have to think about it. It's not, unfortunately, a lot of the time, it's just you get caught up in the sort of, the sort of, what would you call it, like the grind, I suppose, or the
Yeah.
sort. And it's not just as simple as I try to keep it that way, just literally just record stuff and do stuff, but it's so hard just to, you know, just do it, if that makes sense, because there's so much other things going on. And when you're talking about money, okay, it's a little bit, but you just think about these things.
Yeah. It must be quite tricky just to, I mean, putting the music out, I'm not entirely sure, but tricky to handle everything outside of that, you know, as
Yeah.
you're saying. What is it outside of that that keeps you going besides just the music itself?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think actually just generally when you go to sort of like open mics or gigs or whatever, there's actually quite a lot of cool people. And I know that sounds like kind of like a weird little point or whatever, but there's actually quite a lot of people in music who, not all the time, because some people are very driven, they don't really care, but there are some people out there who just really just seem to, they don't care about nothing. You know what I mean? There's like I've got a few friends who they do music thing as well, and they do get caught up in a bit, but they just love it. And I've got this friend of mine who's like he's quite an older guy. He's like quite old. But he does music, we play some gigs together, but he just doesn't really have he's obviously got these he wants to do his music well and he like records it in the studio and everything, but he also doesn't really have like the same concerns. He just does it.
Mm.
He just does it because he likes it. And sometimes you have to really, talk to people like that makes you love it. Because sometimes you're surrounded by people who are like, oh, I need 5,000 streams. It's all very business. I need to do this. And you get surrounded by that. And it's like, oh, this isn't that fun because it's like worse than a job. You know what I mean? It's like it's like a job you don't get paid very much for. And then you're like getting into it and you're like, oh, this is terrible. But there are so many cool people in music who they just live it. They just like, they go to the open mics every week without fail, and they don't do so for any money reasons. It's not nothing to do with that. They don't couldn't care less. They just like having a beer and playing music. And that's really what keeps me going. Beer and and the people. But
I've
yeah.
heard that before.
Mm. I mean, yeah, beer is what keep you going, really. I mean, can't argue with that.
That's the music lifestyle, isn't it?
It is.
Beer and
Not
guitars.
Not to the excess that you get into trouble or nothing, but just a few beers, as I like to say, 4 beers. 4 beers will see you right, you know?
Yeah. So I've heard. Well, but I mean, it's so good to hear that, like, you've met the kind of people that, I mean, even I mean, I imagine that at some point you'll be inspiring certain people to start. I mean, have any of the bands you've been in or like any of the people you've chatted to had any comments about your music and your just sort of journey from being accidentally an artist to now being an artist?
Yeah, well, I don't really admit that too much, to be honest. I don't really say that to them, so maybe not. But yeah, people say like, "Oh, you're doing a great job and stuff," but it's hard for me to sort of take that. I'm really bad at sort of taking their compliments, so I don't really listen to them because if I if I play bad, somebody say, "Oh, you played great," and like it was amazing or whatever, and I'll just be like, I played bad. I don't know. I'm not really good at taking them compliments. Um, but I think the proof is just how many musicians are out there and doing their thing. That's kind of inspiring, just to see people doing their own thing. It doesn't
Yeah.
really matter about me or whether I did this and that, but I think I think the open mic nights, I haven't done like many, and like some got cancelled now and all that, but just to kind of see people actually getting people to play, on a weekday night when they shouldn't really. I do hope to do better though and really like sort of push people a bit far. But the thing is, you get people who just they don't want to push themselves. But I
Hmm.
like pushing people off a cliff. Not literally, of course, but I mean,
How
I like,
motivating.
yeah, can you swim? No, but I like trying to get the best out of people. And I think like some of the gigs I put on, I've definitely, we definitely put people that maybe wouldn't gig or have less opportunities, in a good gig with a decent crowd. So that's really pleasing, but it's also kind of I think the trouble with it is just how hard it is. And I don't want to get people's hopes up. I'm never lying and saying like, oh, I think you're amazing. You could go really, like Simon Cowell. I don't like knocking them down, but I just think if you enjoy something, you should do it. That's it. How much you do
Yeah.
it, that's up to you. But if you like something, do it. Do it to a point that makes you happy. But if you start going, you're trying to do music too much and you're trying to push it too hard, then just forget about it because it won't be fun. If you get to that point where it's just like, I've got to spend the next 3 hours emailing gigs, I've had a hard day at work, I don't want to do this, then just don't because it doesn't really matter. But just writing songs, I think is important, because I think there's so many cover bands and stuff like that doing that. So I think it's just so important just to write a song and then just enjoy it. That's
Yeah.
all I think, really, you know.
Do you have any other advice for sort of upcoming artists like yourself who used to be in your position or are still in your position for that
Yeah.
matter?
I would say, yeah, my biggest advice is basically it's not going to be inspiring. I know this, but it's the same thing. Like, do it to a point that you enjoy it and get to a level where you're comfortable. But just know that the grass isn't always greener, if that makes sense. Like, you might want to get to a certain level, but it's not always nice, if that makes sense. And I don't mean that in like an uninspiring way, but I think if you can write your own songs and people like them and you can get a little bit money out of it and you play gigs that are actually, good gigs that you enjoy, they're not too much stress and you get a bit of money and it just that's what your goal has got to be. That's ideal because trying to push too hard and trying to get famous or successful can be very detrimental to the people in your life as well as yourself. And I think just always remember no one cares who you are. Like it doesn't matter. Fame is fleeting and all that stuff. So you've just got to enjoy it. Whatever you do, enjoy it because you only get one time round. It doesn't matter if you're a failure or you're trying so hard, but just you have to just enjoy it. If that makes sense. Like just enjoy it. If everything messes up, it's not the end of the world. There's plenty of other jobs and other things to do. So try it and enjoy it for what it is.
I think it's such a simple way of encapsulating that. I think it can be so easily overlooked that A, nothing will ever get done if you don't do it,
Hmm.
but also once you're there, it's important to enjoy it for what it is. Because otherwise,
Yeah.
well, what did you put all that time into in the first place?
Exactly. And music isn't even the hard part of music, if that makes sense. It's not that hard really to play. I mean, it's not easy, but the other stuff, sometimes the politics, the like getting shows and stuff, that can get quite intense. And you can compare yourself to people, I always do it. I always think, oh, that act I know, they're doing that amazing gig. Like, oh, why aren't I doing that? And I feel terrible. I feel a bit jealous. I feel a bit terrible. But you got to remember that you got to be proud of where you are because if you think about it, 2, 3 years ago, I was rubbish. Now I'm not so bad. So you got to think about it like that and really judge yourself, but don't be kind to yourself. Don't
Mm.
get too hard on yourself. If things don't go exactly how you think, you know, you might imagine the career goes a certain way, you get a million streams. But if it doesn't go like that, don't be hard on yourself. It's tough.
The whole conversation about inspiration, it was quite interesting because there was almost this dichotomy between a very positive way of looking at it as like, oh yeah, just keep going, you're going to do great, and then the very realistic sense of it might not amount to anything, so you may as well try.
Yeah, I mean that's just the duality of it, isn't it? That's the
Mhm.
duality of nature. Yeah, it's confusing to say that, but it does make sense, I
Mm.
think. Roughly, if you think about it, like you have to try, but you've got to enjoy trying. I think it can very quickly become a burden because of the pressure,
Yeah,
because of the need to sort of get gigs and stuff. Like I feel the pressure now to, like I said, like with the recording stuff, like that pressure. But that's not the only pressure. That the other pressures is more to get gigs.
yeah,
That is another huge pressure, I feel. And both you've got to get gigs and you've got to release recordings, and that can be quite a lot of pressure and stuff, I feel, if you know what I mean. It
yeah.
just it's two different things, but two things that you always feel you should do. Like you always feel like you should be gigging and you always feel like you should be releasing music. But whether you can do those two things at the same time, well, probably can't.
Yeah. It's a tough world out there. And I was just thinking because I was going through my list of all your tracks and all the stuff that you've done. And I feel like that duality that has been mentioned time and time again comes off in a lot of the tracks that you've written. Like just in I Just Want to Sleep Alone, you've got it's okay to chase the day you feel okay, which, it's got a positive inflection. I don't mind the sunshine, again, pretty positive. And then Here Comes the Rain Man. I've got the methods, I've got the means, and I just want to sleep, the title one. Like there's quite a mix of themes and tones in there. Is that something that you've just seen gradually in your own work, but has been projected onto the way you see the music industry, or is it just something you've always really had?
That's not really specifically like I think that's just like life. Do you know what I mean? I think that is just how it is. Like people maybe argue different, but I think it's just reflected in a lot of things. You can see that in the music industry a bit. I think the music industry is probably worse than a lot of people would ever admit or would ever say, to be honest, as well. So, yeah, I think I like kind of yeah, it's kind of funny. Like the song titles are quite positive, and then the songs aren't. You know? That's kind of ironic, but I think that's the way it is. There's a lot of yeah, I like that. I like it because that's made my music really deep now. Seem more deep than I thought it would. That's fair, yeah.
It's my job. That's what I look into. It's
Yeah,
how I
so
find these things. But even in your earlier stuff, like Comfort is a Drug from I Hate It, I Own It,
yeah. You
like
see,
that.
that's ironic, isn't it? That is ironic. Oh yeah, okay. Maybe I do write some all right songs. Maybe I'll convince myself I'm all right songwriter now. Coming on the show, and then I'll think I'm a good songwriter. So
That's the
maybe,
epiphany that the Pug Stance interview can give you if you just get to believe in yourself that little bit more. But it's important because I think a lot of independent artists, as you say, have quite like the first few years, however long it takes, is a tough run. And no matter how good of a run you have,
yeah.
a lot of what a lot of your own opinions of your own music will be based on how successful they are, how many streams
Mm.
you get. Whereas you can put out a pretty good song that you're very proud of, it get no streams, and then you go, oh, well, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I'm doubting my ability to actually write.
Yeah, and it's also another confusing thing just about like the streams though, is if I'm really honest, I don't think I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this, so I might do.
The floor
But
is yours.
okay, I've heard some songs and I'm not hating on music, like, I'm not hating on it, but definitely heard some songs that have a loads of streams on it, and I don't think they're that good. And I don't mean like just hating on it because it's something I don't like. Like, I'm not into rap. I'm not hating on that. But there's definitely some songs I think, wow, how has that got like? It's like let's just think about like Crazy Frog or something like that.
I haven't thought
Like
about that in about 20 years, but
you might not have done, but like how many streams has that got? Like that literally sold so much. And I know that's a kind of like a meme. Like it is funny. Like I'm not saying it shouldn't have sold because it is quite funny. It's quite clever in a way. But it's kind of crazy, like when you see some song and you really think like, that one like Spice Girl song has got 220 million streams, and you're thinking, yeah, that's like that is a lot. Like it probably doesn't deserve that. And I think you have to kind of understand that what you get and what you deserve is different things,
mm,
but that's life as well, because that happens a lot.
that's the reality of it, isn't it? No matter how it's in any role, like however good you think you are, you're either much better or much worse depending on your level of confidence.
Yeah. And usually
What?
people are much better, but sometimes things happen and you think, ooh, it's hard because this is what I'll say about my music. Definitely would say this. There's lots of music that stream less than my music that is better, right? And there's a lot of music that is worse than my music that is streamed a lot more than mine. That's what I would say. And I know that isn't much of a statement, but that's how I've always thought about it.
Yeah. Well, where do you think you fall in that sort of better or worse category? Now you've had your epiphany of maybe my songs aren't that bad. Where would you place yourself now?
I don't know. I'm definitely, well, I don't actually know because I like I say, I always thought that, a bit mixed. Like I don't think myself that too highly, you know? But that's just me being honest. And I don't mind though, because again, that's not the reason I would really do it. It's because I would enjoy doing it.
Hmm.
That's why I tend to sort of do more of the sort of event management now as well. Because it's like you're actually creating value. And I think that's a good thing. If you can create some sort of value from nothing, or I think that's what you've got to do, which I think is weird if you talk about music because it's very personal.
Yeah.
But if you can get the best out of other people as well, I think that's key, if that makes sense. So that's what I try to do more now. So I think my own music maybe isn't that amazing or whatever, but I think that I do create value with stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm more proud of myself for that, if that makes sense. Like I think my music is almost kind of irrelevant to me, if that makes sense. I know this is really confusing, but I think because I do other good things, I think that's like within music, I think that's more valuable. So I just think it's really like important that you treat people well and that, your music isn't just about your music. Yeah, you play music, but when you do the gig, you make sure, you're not horrible to people, you're not like arrogant and stuff like that. Because you will see that as well as there's some lovely people in music, you will kind of see some people who are just terrible.
Hmm.
And you've probably seen it because you've seen it like I won't say names, but you know the kind of bands who do things. And it's important to not like sort of punch down as well. It's almost important to always punch up and not really hating on things that don't really deserve it. Because a lot of people do that. They just like, oh, I hate this, I hate, and it kind of doesn't matter. It's more about how you are as well. Like if you turn up to gigs on time and you're nice to everyone, I think that's really important.
Yeah.
The music, anyone can do music, but if you can be nice, organized on time, reliable, and just generally good, I think that's important. So for me, I think my music is whatever. But I think I'm getting better mostly at being organized and all them other skills, which I think is important, really.
Yeah. Well, do you think like the way you've worded that, do you feel like you represent your music or does your music represent
Well,
you?
I think that's yeah. Definitely think my music is like that because it really is just me. Like, because there's just nothing else to it, is there? It's literally just me. There's never been any sort of like thing where I'll go, oh, I'll add a bit of this, or I'll add a bit of trombone or tambourine. Like, it's literally just what I can do. Like, I've done everything. Nobody's mixed it. Nobody's come in and done anything. So it's very much me, for better and worse. Obviously it will have some issues because, like I say, I'm not an expert at everything, but it literally couldn't be more me because it literally is just me and a mic. There's nothing really, nobody, it's not even like anyone's mixed it. I mean, obviously people help me out and they say stuff, this and that, but it's really just me and the microphone. I'm pointing over there because there's a microphone, but literally it's that mic now and my acoustic guitar and me, and that's it. So it really is me. It couldn't, if it sucks, then that's me. I suck. It couldn't. You can't really blame anyone. But I like that because I can't just go like, oh, the bass player is rubbish. He ruined that song. Because that'll be me, and I have to take responsibility for that. So it definitely is me. It definitely is me.
Do you think you'll ever change that? Would you go back to a band setting or are you perfectly happy in your own? in your own skin now.
It's tough because like I was talking about it, it's really weird because I was on the train somewhere and I had a guitar and this guy was talking to me and he asked me like a very similar question. He said, I did like your music, but have you thought like getting a producer and really, like actually because it doesn't, he was like, well, it is just you, but what would you do? Like if you could produce it, if you had, could get people in and you could go with it and you could go like, what would you do? And it's kind of hard to answer that, but I think the answer is I will always change
Yeah.
because you can't stay the same. But I'm also going to be limited to what I can actually do because I think I wouldn't really. So, for example, I think if I changed instruments, for example, and recorded that, then I would do it. But it has to be. I don't think I could really work with anyone, if that makes sense. So I think it's just about me. But I don't think it's going to be the same as just acoustic guitar and me the whole time. I think I will definitely get better production and stuff, but I think it will just take time
Yeah.
over records over time. And I'll just get more stuff because I'm gonna add stuff slowly in. Like I'm gonna buy a bass when I can find like a good like like a beat up one that's cheap, and sort of just expand it and do different things. But it will be it. I think it will always be just me because I think bands are just too hard work.
Mm.
Just to be honest, like I don't think I work well with other people as well.
Well, at least by then, the only person you have to rely on is yourself.
I know, and it is a bit sad having to like sit there and learn bass, and then I'll be learning some, like maybe drums is what I've thought about and doing all that
Nice.
stuff. And it might be getting to the point where you do that, and it might be like, well, why are you doing all that stuff? But I think as long as I enjoy doing it, then that's again like what I want to do. But I don't really feel the pressure to. Sometimes there's a lot of things people want like drums on it. They're like a lot. One of the things that people say to me and why it's called not a demo anymore is because when I send my music to people, they say, "This is great. You should add this. This is great. You should add this." And it was just a constant thing. Like, you should add bass. You should add this. You should. And I just thought, I just kind of got kind of annoyed of it that they're saying, "Oh, this is like a demo. This is just you." But my sort of argument is, why can't you just do that? Why can't you just make music? Why can't you just do it? Like, if you want to why do I have to add drums in?
Yeah.
They say, oh, it'd be better with drums. Yeah, maybe it would be, but why do you have to?
Wouldn't be you.
Yeah, exactly. It wouldn't be me. And then it's like logistically, you'd have to find a drummer. You'd have to pay them because I wouldn't believe in just like not paying someone, just saying, oh, I'll just do this. So I'd want to make sure, like, however it worked out, like, they were getting paid or it was worth the time to do it. I wouldn't want to just say, "Oh, come play on my record," and then just take all the credit. I think that's wrong. I think that's really wrong, and a lot of people do that actually. They like use people's songs and stuff, and it's like the band thing is like as well. You record something, and then the band leader or whatever will just take all the credit, and he'll just take all the money or whatever, and just go, yeah. And I don't think that's right, is it?
No.
No, that happens from time to time, and yeah. So I think it's just simpler for me, but doesn't make it worse. Obviously, if my music was like jazz or something, that might be tough, but it's not. It's simple, so it's okay. It's supposed to be simple. It's not supposed to be, because people often say like, it'd be better with drums. You could do this, you can do that, but I don't. It doesn't have to be. Like I did make it that way on purpose. I'm not like an idiot, if that makes sense. I'm not like I didn't just go like, I didn't do it without any thought. It was like, yeah, this is what I can do. I'm gonna do it. If I will add stuff in the future. I definitely will try and definitely, I never know what's going to happen in the future. I might pick up like a drum machine or something that just completely inspires me, but it'll be random almost.
Yeah.
It'll be random. It's just one day I wake up and go, oh, there's a cheap drum machine on eBay. I'm going to buy it. And that'll be that probably because I don't really have like a direction. Some people have like sort of a direction now where they go, "Oh, I want to make like a jazz album, or they would go, oh, I'm going to do something that's like blues. They kind of do things like that, but I just kind of just do whatever, like not really genre specific.
Yeah. I mean, I think
it's yeah, having no set future can be both can be detrimental, but at the same time is
Mm.
so inspiring and just quite freeing. Like you are, it's just you. You have all the openings and all the possibilities in the world. It's just a matter of what you do with it.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing when you're in the band, it just like for me it just feels like when you do that thing, and you're together and it's everyone has just got a different idea of what it is. Like for me it could be like what it is now, like a part-time job, like
Yeah.
you can't do it that much. And some people do it like, oh, I want to practice every 2 weeks, play like 5 gigs a year. They don't want to put the effort in, or you get someone in the band who wants to put loads of effort in, and it doesn't really work because everyone's like at a different level, if that makes sense, of where their commitments are, what they want to do, how it is. And I just find that like you're just fighting against everyone. But when you're with yourself, I mean, there's literally it is scary, but there is nothing stopping me from doing a jazz 30 track album tomorrow. Like I could just do it. Like probably not literally because I don't know how to do it, but if you want to, you could do it.
Yeah.
And I think like I'm getting a bit old as well. Like so I feel like you might as well do it before you get old rather than regret it and never do anything, if that makes sense.
Exactly. Well, I mean, in the randomness of the future, is there anything that you know you're set on? Is there anything that is coming up to sort of close things off that you can say, this is who Charlie Smith is, this is what's going to happen?
No, just to be honest, I don't. I just gonna have to say that.
It's an easier
I,
answer than explaining it. You just go, nah,
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, literally. I think the EP I've got working on, I'm gonna do that. But I think it's very punky, and I think it's not really gonna be that. Well, you see in a few months, obviously, when people hear it, what they think. But that is gonna be it's very punky. It's very unpolished, actually. Probably my most unpolished punky thing I've done. I think probably. So from there, where I go from things is probably trying to make it. I'm gonna buy a new microphone. That's the only goal I have, and I'm gonna try and record a bit cleaner. But that's
Yeah.
kind of it, really. I'm just gonna try and make something a bit more like good production value, but not insane. I'm not gonna be, changing the style completely. But in the future, the only thing I'd probably say I want to do is I want to like get my sort of production level up a bit. Whatever I do, I want to make it like bit more of a better like like a better mix,
Yeah.
better but better quality a bit. And I think if I get a new mic, which I'm gonna get after I've done this EP, and that's it really. I think maybe try out some new tunings like drop F or something. That's cool.
What
That's
fun.
cool. That will be fun. So really trying to make like an album with some crazy tunings. I know I've kind of done that before, but I'm gonna go maybe do a whole album with some crazy tunings.
I guess that's the same point that you
Yeah.
made before of like, if you can try it, then why not? Just give it a go.
Yeah, literally. I mean, the streaming people aren't going to like it, but I think as long as it kind of like you can structure it in a way that's going to make sense. Because I've got to kind of structure it in around gigs
Yeah.
because that's what the kind of goal is, I suppose, is just to keep doing gigs and keep enjoying playing live. So whatever I'm going to do definitely has to fit around that, but it's also got to be not so relentless on the gigs. That's one thing I will definitely say in the future is if I do like the tour again, I say tour, but like 1 week away. But if I do that sort of thing, and I do a lot of organizing stuff, I don't want it to be so relentless as some of the things I've done. Because some of the stuff I've done is too much, you know?
Way too much.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, yeah, I feel like it is too much, some of the stuff I've done. It's too much rubbish, some stuff I've done. So I definitely won't do that. But that's sort of my only thing I'll say is I want to be happy, with it and what I'm doing live. And that's the plan, really. That's the main plan.
Yeah.
After I finish this EP though, because I've got 2 songs and I'll tell you today, I spent a lot of time recording and I couldn't get it right. I'll be honest about that. So to be
But
honest, that might be the future, is just getting this thing done because
yeah,
it's actually a pain.
but that's the grounded nature of how you make this stuff. You know, it takes a while. Just does.
Yeah.
Just a fact. Well, perfect. Well, I mean, the excitement is brewing for that. Whatever comes up, it's so mysterious and so in the works that I can't even predict what it could be. And when you say that it's punky as well, I mean,
Yeah.
I can't complain with that.
No. No, it'll be good. It's not too different to anything I've done before. It's just I I wanted to I think it's not majorly different. So it's still acoustic. It's like the same acoustic, but it's just raw again. It's just punky, and it's got like one little like riff idea that's like a bit Middle Eastern sort of style.
Yeah,
But that's it. So it's not nothing. I don't want to say I'm groundbreaking. I'm not, but an acoustic Middle Eastern sounding style song. That's it really. So
yeah.
it will be a bit different for me. I've tried. I have to be honest. As far as an acoustic guitar and vocals go, I've tried to make it somewhat interesting.
And
Because it's not always the easiest to make it sound like something new, is it? Because you ain't
yeah.
got much to go with. So I'll try my best to do something a little bit different.
Well, I mean, I count me very excited at least. Would you know when it's planned to be coming out?
Well, I'm gonna say I'm gonna say April, May time.
Okay.
Okay, but so I've got 4 tracks done. I've got 4 tracks recorded, and they're not like perfect. I've got to do a few adjustments, but not much. They're like all right. But it's just these last 2 tracks. Can't record them how I want, and it's just taking time, to be honest. Then yeah, so but I'm still hoping April, May
Well, I mean,
because
wish you the best of luck on it.
yeah,
Sounds
I'm
like
gonna
it's
need it, to be honest. It's not because it will take that long. It's just because when you put your stuff online, I don't know if you know this or not, but you have to submit it like a month before. So
yeah,
if it was coming out in April, I'd have to do it by sort of late February, like finish it and have everything done.
right.
There's always a bit of delay from when you finish it to when it's coming out. So, but I'm still hopeful. It's 2 songs. I can do it, I think.
Well,
Um,
we shall see. Well, I mean, in the meantime, people can certainly go and check out I Just Want to Sleep, not a demo anymore, and then your Southampton Sessions that came out in December. They're all out and raring to go.
yeah,
Lovely stuff. Well, I mean, thank you very much. I don't know how this has
right.
gone as a fun time of chatting. It was mostly talking about streaming and how it
Yeah,
how
yeah.
it
I feel
affects
like,
artists, but that is a key part of
yeah,
it. So
yeah. I feel like that's me wanting to sort of. It's been on my mind. You see, it's been on my mind, and I've been thinking about that. And I want to put it. I wanted to do a video myself, but I haven't quite got the sort of how to do it, if that makes sense. But
yeah,
it's like I think it's going to be a big thing. I think in the next whenever they do this thing, there is going to be a lot of complaints. Probably not by big artists, but you will see, the smaller artists that bands. I think there will be a big kick up against this. So I think it was getting ready to kick off maybe a little bit.
yeah,
I think a few people are going to come out and talk about this, but maybe they won't. Maybe everyone will just accept it. But it could be, kind of like a flashpoint, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. For me, it's something that it does worry me. It does worry me. I was going to say it doesn't, but I think it does concern me overall. Not from my own point of view, but just from all the artists,
yeah,
like all the artists you listen to probably, and obviously the smaller ones, it's probably going to affect all of them.
yeah,
And just to be honest about it, it probably will. And people will still create because they want to, and they feel, that's what we want to do, but it is going to affect smaller artists more,
yeah.
it's going to affect them a lot, potentially, I think.
Well, it's very insightful. I mean, me not as a musician, but I'm sure for the people out there who are looking to or
Yeah.
have enough, it's nearly enough streams to count, this might be a changing force for it. So you're doing God's work, making
Yeah,
people
well, I'm
aware
trying,
of,
I'm trying.
yeah. Wow. Well, yeah, again, thank you very much. It's been insightful and certainly interesting as a just to comment on the music industry as a whole from an independent creator. You don't get that
Yeah,
very often, so
yeah, no, thanks for having me on. I hope I haven't bored everyone too much. I've been talking a lot. I really hope I haven't bored people. I hope you can edit some of this out, like the
oh,
boring
I
part I
mean
was
that's
talking.
mostly my job, to be honest.